Buddhism for you. Let's go back 2,500 years to when Siddhartha Gautama is born and then immediately stood up, takes 7 steps, and declares that this would be his final birth. When he grew older, he was distressed seeing people suffer from old age and sickness, and he leaves his life of comfort. 5th century India and Nepal were full of religious dropouts and wandering seekers, not to mention the original promoters of YOLO, one of the first known atheist movements who argued priests made up ceremonies to get free meals. Siddhartha threw himself into the most extreme teachings he could find. He held his breath until it felt like his skull was being crushed. Then he starved himself until he was so emaciated that when he touched his belly skin, he grabbed his backbone instead. A group of gods intervened and offered to secretly infuse his pores with divine nourishment so he could stay alive without eating. Siddhartha refused to cheat with god fuel and instead decided to eat something, realizing that torturing himself was not, in fact, the answer. He sat beneath a tree, determined not to rise until he found the end of suffering. This alarmed Mara, the lord of death and desire, who tries to break him. He tempts him, tests him, and pressures him with fear, doubt, and craving, trying to pull him back into the cycle. It all bounced off, and Mara left. The Buddha sat on, undisturbed, and that night he had a 3-stage psychic download. As night fell, he remembered countless past lives, names, families, the food he'd eaten, the death he'd died, stretching back through vast cycles of world creation and collapse. At midnight, he saw beings passing away and reappearing, beautiful and ugly, each reborn according to their karma. At dawn, he realized that wanting things, even the desire to keep existing, is the problem. The way out of endless rebirth cycles was through wisdom, doing no harm, and clarity of mind. Siddhartha was planning to keep those epiphanies to himself when a god shows up and begs him to teach the ignorant humans. Siddhartha relents and builds a community full of rules. Rules of chastity, no comfy beds, no music, no dancing, and no eating after lunch. When his aunt asked to join the order, he refused 3 times before finally allowing it, but he warned that admitting women would shorten the lifespan of the teaching from 1,000 years to 500. He even warned his monks that women were like snakes, hostile, treacherous, and venomous, claiming a woman's poison was her intense lust. But being enlightened did gain you some pretty cool superpowers. Advanced practitioners are said to be able to pass through walls as if through space, walk on water as if it were earth, and can sit cross-legged and fly through the air like a winged bird. The Buddha grew his movement by out-magicking rival priests. When he encountered fire-worshipping ascetics with a large following, he performed a series of miracles, including subduing a fire-breathing serpent in their fire shrine, and he eventually convinced them and their followers to join him. His jealous cousin had it out for him after Siddhartha refused to hand over leadership of the monks to him. So he sent a charging elephant after him, but the Buddha stood still, radiating love and kindness, and the animal stopped and bowed. And from there, the stories keep growing. Later texts record him simultaneously shooting fire from one half of his body and water from the other. He also ascends to heaven to teach his deceased mother, then returns down a jeweled triple staircase while gods line the route. At 80 years old, the end comes. He stops to rest beneath trees along the road in agony from a final, fatal meal. His monks gathered around him. He had spent his entire life working towards one goal, to never have to do any of this again, to let the flame go out completely. At the moment of his death, he got exactly what he wanted. His last words, "All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence." And that's not blasphemy, that's history.